What is up, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning into episode, 271 of Expert Mentors Live. And Jimmy and I were chatting before we hit the go live button, and just telling them kind of the backstory of this of these conversations. And you do the math, right? We've been pretty dang consistent every week with these conversations, and the whole Expert Mentor series and conversation really, the birth child of, come from Kyle Whistle and conversation with Kinder and Stasik. And, I wasn't on the call. So I got, default by not being there, the opportunity to lead this. And definitely so grateful for that and the opportunity. I've had some just tremendous conversations, and man, I learn on every one of these calls. I'm taking notes, and being a little selfish, also trying to, extract as much from our guest to be able to add value, because really that's what the Expert Mentor series has been all about, right? We've got an incredible community. It's one of the best communities in any industry and anything that I've ever seen or ever witnessed or ever been a part of, of the Honey Badger Nation. And we've got so many rock stars that just want to give back. And today's no different. And, Jimmy, we got to cross paths, finally in your backyard a couple of weeks ago. And then hopefully be able to spend some more time with you next week in Cleveland as we kick off our agent to CEO event next week in Cleveland.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I, again, I appreciate you guys coming into to our backyard right here in Detroit.
Yeah.
With us for a little bit and dropping some knowledge on us. But man, what'd you say, 271? And that's
271, man.
I mean, there's only 52 weeks in a year, right? So like, do the math on that. That's a lot of episodes, man. So I love that. And the consistency and what it is. And that's one of the biggest things. And one of the things that I've with the Honey Badgers and the fast forward movement and EXP in general, like the community, right? I just had an agent hit me up yesterday, and I had put some things into our chat up here, and she was like, I've never been around this type of community in all my years of real estate. And I'm like, well, no, because normally, real estate tends to have this, like, you get in these little pockets and in these little groups, and nobody wants to share anything. Right. And that was one of the biggest eye-opening things to me. Is I even reached out to Kyle early on a couple years ago when I first got in about some team building questions, and had an email back in my thing with all the stuff. And I was like, wow, I just asked and I didn't have to do anything. It was great.
It was great. And, you look at what causes that behavior, right, Jimmy? You look at it, and compensation drives behavior, drives everything. You can 100%. Argue and say whatever you want to say, but down fundamentally, the compensation will drive that, because, if you're forced into a survival mindset mentality, you're going to where you can, get out of survival. And so that's where the compensation factor really comes in. And I know what you mean, right? Like, prior to being made aware of this company, it was two options. If you're growing and building a team, a brokerage type team type model, you either do it under the KW flag or you do it independent. Those were like the best options. And we were the go-to place to where you came, so you weren't on an island of independence when you decided if you did want to go independent and do your own thing. Jimmy, I've taken more people from wherever brokerage they were at independent than like a bunch.
Yeah,
several. I mean, at least 25 to 30, actual small teams, brokerages, independent, just because that's what we did. And we weighed every option, everything you have to think through and launch, to think like a business owner. And I think that's where you make those decisions. And it wasn't until EXP came along, and this is where Glenn was absolutely brilliant, is like, let me tie you to the compensation. So like, you're not afraid in a scarcity mentality that you have upside for the people that you're trying to align with and want to work with, and to just remove that barrier. Because we had in our mastermind, Jimmy, we had like territory. People were territorial. They're like, hey, you can't come in.
That's what it is, right? Everybody just like held on to their thing, and this is my zip code. You can't be in my zip code, right?
Yeah. And so I think aligning and getting to that point, I think too, just where the world is too, everything's so transparent. There really are no secrets. However, you do kind of have kind of your secret sauce, which to me is your heartbeat, which is your culture. And I know the situation you're in. I mean, you're in a situation that most people will never be able to understand or comprehend when you're in the size of an organization and the team and the leadership and the people around you are. So like, I'm really excited to dive into in with you today, really get into kind of the fundamentals to succeed and not just like survive, but thrive in this climate moving into the future. But Jimmy, give a little bit of background, right? Like you had talked about, even when you came over, you didn't even like, you had no clue what you were stepping into.
I had no idea what I was stepping into.
Yeah. I think a little bit about your story, a little bit of background and how that carries into the unique situation, that you're in today, and kind of what led up to that point.
Yeah, 100%, man. And so I started in this business, over a decade ago. And I actually started on the mortgage side for the big QL company here downtown Detroit, right? So that's where I got into it on the mortgage side of things. And then after leaving there, got into real estate. The funny thing is I got into real estate. I got hired at KW and I didn't have a real estate license yet. I got hired as a productivity coach at Keller Williams, and I didn't have a real estate license, but they knew I could come in and coach their agents. And it was one of the biggest things they were missing out on. So that's how I got into real estate. It was on the coaching side, and then transitioned into being just an independent realtor and just doing my thing and doing a couple different things until I had a couple conversations with Kurt Shewell and Mark Z about coming and running the team. And so I did that and jumped into it, not even thinking about, like I said, the EXP side. That I learned about that later. I was coming in for a specific thing to come run, the number one team in the state of Michigan. That's what I was coming in to do. And kind of backed off on my production because, that's what you do, right? You step into this leadership role and you back off on your production. But what I learned over the last 3 years has been such an incredible idea of what EXP is. And it's this community of coaches and trainers, but and not for anything other than just to lift the industry, right? And a rising tide lifts all ships. And I've always believed in this. And it's almost like you're this dreamer. And I was always this dreamer of like, everybody should just get along and everybody should just, and learn from each other and teach each other and go from these things and do all this stuff for each other. And it's the heartbeat of a coach, and I know you talked about this about, your dad being a coach and doing all that stuff, right? So I spent 25 years coaching high school basketball, and doing all that stuff. And yeah, winning's great, but it's more about the building the relationships. And I still have a relationship with the kids that I coached who are now in their 30s and getting married. So, so jumping into that part, what I've learned over the last 3 years is how to build, grow, develop from a guy like Curtis Shewell. Like, I mean, you get around that guy, and if you don't have energy, you can't run around with that guy. Like you can't just be in the same room with him if you don't have any energy. And learning from a guy like Mark Z, who built this team that he has now. And so where that's led me to at this point in my career is now building my own team. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm now stepped out of that role into a role of like, I'm doing this on my own now. So, but EXP has given me the ability to do that. So, you know what I mean? So, and then again, being around people like yourself and Alvy and all that, I have learned so much, man. And it's been a true blessing for me to be around this group of people and learn to do this. And now, having the support and having the support to do this on my own, man, I am just like, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, would you want to do this on your own? And I would have said, no, there's no way. Now I'm like, yeah, why not? Right. I can call Tina call, right. And say, hey, Tina, I need some advice on this, or that. Right. Or I can call you and say, John, I need some advice on this, and I get it. Right. And I get it immediately. And I get true, honest advice too. It's like, I've reached out to Tina about different things. I've talked to Gogo about different things, and they're like, I don't know. I wouldn't do that right now. And it's just like that honesty and that truthfulness of how to help me grow and build has been life-changing, to be honest. It's absolute life-changing.
Dude, I love it. I think it's so spot on. A couple questions there. What was it to that ultimately gave you that confidence, right? Usually stepping off out there, kind of on your own, that we've experienced. And here's the beautiful thing with EXP, right? Any of the platform models, but EXP, here's the beautiful thing. The number one fundamental flaw in the traditional team model is that your talent always came out the top, and we didn't have a place for them to land. And being independent, then that's where, hey, we have a team, we actually have a brokerage, but we have a team within the brokerage. And if you want to come off the team, you still have a spot here, right? But how do you make the math work? How does it really align and make sense? It was always tricky because there's only so many dollars to go around. So you look at somebody like yourself, right? Like in the traditional before EXP, like Mark would have been hesitant, one to allow you to come in and allow Kurt to be Kurt and doing what he's doing. But then the fear of now you leaving, what happens instead of being aligned or being a part of this team, you become competition. But all of that has changed. So for you, and I think this is good for agents to listen, like, where does your mentality, where does your mindset have to be able to know that you can take that step, right? Like, so the point that I was trying to make was, when your talent comes out the top, most agents that have the entrepreneurial mindset, that are wired a certain way, they're going to go do it, right? They're going to go do it. They're going to go do it on their own.
Yeah.
But not everybody's wired that way. So for you, what was kind of the, okay, I got this, instead of being backed in a corner? I'm not backed in a corner, but I want to go do this. Like, where does the confidence, what was the mindset for that shift?
Yeah, it's a great question, man, and it's deep, because it's that mindset shift of, you have to get in and get your hands dirty, because you have to figure out how to do this, right? And one of the things that I've learned along the way is I wanted to learn as much as I could about building a team. Like, how do you build one thing? But then I also wanted to take into and do it the way I want to do it. So I also had to learn the things I didn't want to do. Right. I had to learn, like, there's a way to build teams, and there's a different way. Like you said, there's blueprints for everything. And it's finding out that blueprint, how you want to do it, and it making it fit. So instead of recreating the wheel, but there's things that I learned along the way that I didn't want to do. Right. I didn't want to go to 120 person team. Right. It's a lot. It's a heavy lift, because then, and it's not that I don't want to be surrounded by that many people. It's that I don't feel like I can give myself to that many people that are directly associated with me being a team. Right. If I can grow a team to 20 to 30 agents right now, and pour into them, and then recreate myself in others so they can then pour into them, that's what it is. And the aha moment for me was really like in November, December of last year, when I had agents come to me and say, they wanted to do this, they want to go out, they want to do different things. And it was almost like, save me, right? Like, it was almost like, save me. And I said, let's do it. Right. And I said, let's do it. I had a group that I was very confident in that we could do this with. I had a group of people that I knew, that I was surrounded with talent, and I was surrounded with good people. And I knew we could do this. Right. Now, has it been a heavy lift? Sure. Has it gone as smoothly as we'd liked it to? Probably not, but nothing ever does. Right. Nothing ever does. So it was that confidence of, like, I had people believing in me that I didn't realize they even believed in me yet. And it wasn't the upper echelon. It was just the agents that I was surrounded with were like, hey, we can do this. If you'll do this, we can do it. And I said, all right, let's do it. And then again, having those conversations with Curtis, and having that conversation with Mark, and everybody was okay with it. It was because, again, it's not, like you said, compensation drives behavior, right? We can say it doesn't, we can say, it doesn't, but it does. So, but we're all tied together. We're business partners, right? And I think that's one of the things I learned over the last 3 years with Curtis was that we're all tied together. We're business partners. You and I, John, are business partners. We're tied together in this thing called EXP. and I couldn't be happier with where we're at and where it's going. Knowing that who I'm tied together with as business partners, and we're not competition, we're business partners, and that's the most important thing that I've figured out.
Yeah, I think you look at it and you're like, well, how is that possible? And I think you look at, okay, well, if you're succeeding and the production and the health, the core value alignment, the brand alignment, the reputation in the marketplace, if that's all pulsing at a high level, that makes the company more valuable, and therefore it makes things easier for everybody. And I think that's what a lot of team members need to understand, because starting out with small teams is typically a family dynamic first, right? And
Yep.
you have to quickly switch from family to team because family's messy. And we got that that crazy uncle that we just can't get rid of, but that's why it gets messy. But when you think of it and shift, like, okay, a team, everybody has a role, right? 11 men on the field, everybody has a specific job. Do your job. And from an agent perspective, it's like, oh man, I need all the leads. I have a scarcity mentality. But the shift is like, the more people, the bigger the brand, the bigger the opportunity, the more signs in yards, the easier the business becomes. And I think that's a letting go of moving to a to a true abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. But the theme that I'm hearing from you, Jimmy, as we're diving into to what we're talking about today. So one of our mentors gave us his number one book recommendation, and it's around the theory of constraints. And once you adopt this concept that there's a constraint in everything that we do, in our thinking, in our relationships, in our health, in our business, in our wealth creation, there's a constraint always somewhere. In business, it's real simple. It's three things, right? What are we doing? How are we going to do it? And who are we doing it with? In the number one constraint, 10 times out of 10, is always the who factor. What I'm hearing from you, the underlying theme that we've been talking about this entire conversation, it revolves around the who. Like you even went and did your own thing because you had the who's first.
Yeah.
And that famous Jim Collins rant, it's who first. And I think the quicker that you can realize that, the better off and the faster that you can move, when you understand it's all about the who.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was why, when I presented at Build up here, that was one of the things I talked about, was people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Mm. And not everyone is meant to be in your life for a lifetime. And that's okay, right? Seasons end, right? Like we get winter up here in Michigan. And I said, not everybody likes winter. And so sometimes there's people in your life that can be your winter, right? And it's, again, there's nothing wrong with it. It just not working out. And one of the things that I've figured out, if someone is in my life they're always in my life for a reason. We may not know the reason right at the moment, but they're there for a reason. Yeah. Right. And I use Kurt a lot of this. Kurt and I have known each other for almost 30 years. Wow. But we kind of like passed with ships in the night for a long time. Right. Right. But then once we reconnected, it was the right time. Right. Mm-hmm. So we've been in each other's life for a long time, but we got back together at the right time. And that's not my timing. That's somebody else's timing. Right. That's not me. That's not, I just go along with it. So, but to say that, like, you have to be able to let go of people and move on. And because if they're not helping you get closer to your dreams or destinations, then we don't have time for them. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. But I have to look at it the opposite way. If I'm not helping them get closer to their dreams and aspirations either, then I can't hold them back. Right? I have the ability to let them go and say, I'm not helping you at this time. And I have to let you go and grow, right? My job, and I tell this to my agents that come on with us. I tell their agents, like, my job as a leader is to put feathers on your wings and let you fly. It's not to hold you back. I'm just here to put the feathers on, teach you all the road bumps that we've learned along the way in this business, steer you around them, and then let you go, right? Because that's not, my goal is not to hold you back and hold you onto this team. My goal is to let you grow and do your thing. right? So much so, like I've even, with our team here, we're EXP Elite. That's our team name. We're EXP Elite. So you market everything, you brand everything. It's yours. It's not mine. It's not anything else. It's yours. So my goal for our agents, and a reason a season or lifetime, is seasons come and go too, right? So you have to be able to end, and you have to be okay with it. Let them go and move on. It doesn't mean that season doesn't come back around at some point either, right? Because that was my example with Curtis too. Like we were in each other's lives years ago and then came back. So it cycled back, and again, seasons happen yearly, and that's how people are in your life, and they should be, again, helping you get closer to your dreams and goals, and you should be helping them get closer to their dreams and goals. And if you're not in each other's life at the right time.
Dude, I love that. And Jimmy, so a couple things there that kind of sparked one of advice, kind of analogies to think about life was that was like, think about it, right? Like you're born on this bus, and the bus is already moving, and the bus never stops until we pass. And the bus will probably keep going then too. But think about that, right? Like when you're born, there's already people on the bus. Yeah. You have your parents, you have family, you have siblings, you have their friends, right? Like that are all on the bus. And as you get older, those people get off the bus and they leave our lives, right? And then our job is to sometimes open the door and put people on the bus. And there's sometimes to open the door and kick people off the bus.
Yeah.
But our job is also to who we allow on the bus and who we don't allow, but also in what seats that we want to put them in. Right. And because every seat on the bus has a different vantage point.
Yeah.
And it's our job. And that's the number one metric for head of company, right? Your number one metric at head of company when you have to build the team is the percentage of the right people in the right seats within your organization. That's your number one metric responsibility when it comes to people. But I love that understanding is that not everything is meant to last. And it is just for this particular season that we're in. That's so good. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up. One of my favorite, it's a Forcella thought is that, sometimes we try to drag people with us. And it's the, did you leave them or did they choose not to come along?
Right. And it's tiring dragging them, right? It's tiring dragging them. And it's the old adage too, like I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink, right? Like it's the same thing. It's like pulling people along, and it's like, hey, just like lift your head up and look at where you're at. Like I'm bringing you, I'm getting you to these spots and I'm helping you get here. But you don't even want to help. You don't even want to help yourself, right? So it's exhausting at times, right? Yeah. So that's a big part of it too. And your analogy with the bus is one thing that I've used before. Is like there was a pastor I heard say this one time where life is like a train, and you're on this train track, and everything that is bad in your life and everything that happens negative is on the left, and everything positive that happens in your life is on the right. And even on the days where the worst day of your life, if you think about like the worst possible day of your life, something good happened that day.
Yeah.
You just didn't focus on it.
That's right.
Right. And even on the best day of your life, the best day of ever, your kids being born and whatever that best day of your life is, something bad happened that day. You just didn't focus on it. So again, it's that train track and that bus of what side am I focusing on? And I'm a big positive mindset guy. I'm a big believer in like, if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, I'm like, well, then go back to bed, turn over and get out the other side. I don't have time for the negative stuff. Yeah. Like we got to move, man. And it can't happen negatively. It's all got to be positive for me.
No, I agree with you. It's a developed skill. Anything that's a skill can be developed, right? Yeah. Leadership is a skill. Your mindset is a skill. Your sales ability is a skill. Your market, anything that is a skill can be developed. And I think it's just making the decision, and that's where it starts first, right? It starts in the mind and being able to understand that, and coming from, a place of gratitude, coming from a place of abundance, having a core foundation to be able to anchor and hold yourself centered to is so key, right? Especially in this business where there's so much uncertainty because we're dealing with the actual season of a market, and we're dealing with a season right now that is just absolutely bananas with what's going on a climate. But I think that mindset too, Jimmy, comes back down to, is this within my control? And I can't give my time and my energy because it's so small to the things outside of my control. If it's within my control, then I need to do something about it. I need to address it. I need to pay attention. Otherwise, that's a great default question, right? So like, is this within my control? And I think for a lot of agents struggle.
Yeah, it's another thing I talked about with the reason season lifetime. Then there's this circle of concern, right? Like I have a circle of influence, and I have people that will influence my life positively or negatively, and the negative ones have to go. But the positive ones stick around. But my circle of concern, right? There's things I'm concerned about, right? I've brought this up, interest rates, right? The whole NAR settlement. They're concerning to me. The market, it's a concern to me. But at the end of the day, I have zero control over that.
Right.
So I can't let that pull me down. I can't let that pull me negatively. Now I got to deal with it. Right. And I gotta understand it, and I gotta be able to work around it or do the right things with the NAR settlement. And I got to make sure I get my contract signed. Right. But these are things we should have been doing anyway. But my circle of concern is I can't let that weigh me down, because that will weigh you down. Right. Now, my circle of influence are things that I can influence and I have control over. Those are the things I need to be more concerned about, things I actually have control over. The outside thing is just noise, and I have to adjust to it. It's like sailing a boat. I have to adjust my sail to catch the wind. But at the same point, I can't think, well, geez, the wind's not blowing my direction today. It's not. Adjust your sail, move on, go to the next thing, because I just can't live in that and dwell on those things that I can't control.
How do you coach yourself, and then how do you coach others through that? Right. Because it sounds okay. Yeah, that makes sense, but it's a little bit harder in practice. So how do you coach yourself and coach others through that?
Yeah. And that's the hard part, right? So I'll have agents ask me, like, how do you do this every day? Like, how is this? I'm like, well, it's not easy, first of all. Right. Because there are things that weigh you down there, and life happens. Right. I always use the term like off court issues. Right. We all have, recently, yesterday. Yeah. We have off court issues. Yesterday, for me, my wife's car stalls and just shuts off. No one knows why. I'm not a car guy. I have no idea. It's a new car. I don't know. I have no idea why it stalls. Right. So you got to take care of those things. Off court things happen. But again, it's a circle of concern. It happened. We have to fix it and move along with it. We can't do that. So it's hard to coach yourself in that every day. You have to have, again, a circle of people that you can vent to, right? Because there's this thing, you got to get it out. You got to vent. Otherwise, it's like a volcano that just builds up. But you have to be able to have there's people to vent to, right? And you have to have people that can that also have to put you in a reality check, right? So earlier today, I had a conversation with I have a standing Tuesday once a week meeting with Kurt, right? So Kurt and I meet every Tuesday, and we kind of it's a level set meeting. It keeps me in check. It keeps him in check. We're down, we're close to each other, but we're 35 minutes away from each other. But it helps keep me level set. Now, as far as like how I coach my agents with that, and how I coach other people with that, is I let them vent. We can sit in my office and they can tell me everything, right? I'm like the bartender. Get it all out. Tell me everything. The wife did this, the husband did that, the kids are jerks. Let it all out, and then let's pull it back together and see what actually we need to fix. Mm-hmm. Right? What actually is the problem? And sometimes it's just like it's not really a problem. I just had to get that all out. And I'm like, good. As long as you feel better. Right. And you get that all out, because you have to have a place to vent. You have a place to go to. And coaching agents like that is like have the conversation with people. You have to talk to people and build relationships. And agents will come to me and say, my client's going to be really upset about this. And I said, well, have you talked to your client yet? No. I said, well, just rip the Band-Aid off, ask them the question and see what happens. And 90% of the time they come back and go, man, they weren't mad at all. I'm like, I know.
I'm laughing because So it's a concept of, within leadership with your team is like, you never let anybody put their monkeys on your desk. And so a lot of people will come to you to just bitch and complain and moan, but they just want to just leave their monkeys there and go on about their day. You're like, hold up, you ain't leaving these critters here with me. Take that with you. And so to your point, the question is like, you let them vent for a little bit and whatever. And you're like, well, what did they say when you talked to them about that? Oh, I haven't talked to them about it yet.
Yeah, that's the response, right? It's silent.
So then you can coach them through. Okay, great. When are you going to talk to them? Okay, great. When am I going to know that you got through this? You're going to let me know? You're going to get back with me? Okay, great. Right. So you coach them and put that accountability, but people, they want to default into the smoke, and is it something, do you need to address it, or you just need to let it go is the
right.
biggest thing. No. So Jimmy, that's so good. So I guess kind of shifting a little bit, because, we're talking about, what are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish? We got the team, we're trying to sell some real estate. We're trying to recruit some agents, and, really about your success, right? What define what is success? What are your goals? The who factor around you, but what's the tactical, man, the down and dirty, like getting after it? Like what are the tools, the framework, how do I allocate my time for success in this industry, in this season, in this climate that we're dealing with?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I really work on agents with a lot too. And I've spoken at EXP University about this. I'm actually speaking at EXPCon about this. It's scheduling, right? And building your schedule and time block, and you can be non-negotiable with your calendar. Right. And what I found, and one of the things that I talk about to a lot of agents, is the more you schedule, the more free time you actually get back. Because if I say I have to take care of this problem between 8 and 9 o'clock, and this problem between 10 and 12, and this problem between 12 and 1, and these things, by the time 4 o'clock rolls around, I'm good. I've taken care of all my problems for the day. There may be a fire I have to put out here or there, but again, for the most part, the big things I've taken care of for the day, and I'm done. Right. So again, it goes even to scheduling. How do I, if I'm prospecting for business, what time are you prospecting? Where are you prospecting? Who are you calling? Who are you going after? Are you door knocking? Like, what does it look like? And getting real granular with what their goals are. So I'm a big believer in setting goals, but I can't set your goals for you.
Right.
You have to set them for yourself.
Yeah.
And once you understand what that even means, right? Because I go over SMART goals a lot, right? That's one of my biggest things. I go over SMART goals because they have to be specific and they have to be relevant to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And if they're not, you're not going to do them, right? Because, and again, what do all new agents say? How much do you want to make this year?
100,000.
100,000 without fail. And it's okay. And I think it's a good round number. And most people have never made that much.
Yeah.
So it just sounds good and it sounds great. And can you do it? It's possible. It's going to be really hard to do, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons we have fallout in this industry, is because people will make 90, think that they didn't hit their goal, but that's more money than they've ever made too, yeah. But they look at it bad. So the success for me is if the more I can schedule, because we all have that drunk monkey on our shoulder, and we all have ADD, and we all have shiny object syndrome and all the things. But the more I schedule and I stick to a diligent schedule and a routine every day, the more success I've had, and the more time I get back with my family. That's right. Because that's very important to me. Like we were talking about before, like I have a 20-year-old and a 13-year-old. That's very important to me, and a wife that I like to spend time with. So it's very important to me that I get to spend time with them. So the more I stay diligent with my calendar and schedule, the more time I get back with them. Right. I've joked and I said, but it's true. My wife will just put stuff in my calendar, and I just show up. Right. I just know, all right, where do I have to be on Saturday? I know where I have to be. It's in my calendar. It's there. It's scheduled. It's non-negotiable for me to stick to my calendar. And once you learn that part, you become an unstoppable force, because, and again, you get so much more time back with your family or things that you want, whatever you're scheduling. If it's not family, if you like to fish, put fishing in your calendar.
Yeah.
Put a fishing time in there that you want to go fish. Be non-negotiable with it. If a Tuesday night, you want to go golf on your golf league on Tuesday night, put Tuesday night golf league in there, be non-negotiable with it. And when a client says they want to go look at a house Tuesday night, say, hey, look, I'm pretty busy. I'm booked up Tuesday night. We're going to have to go a different night.
And they're okay with that. It's the whole thing is that, if you are rigid to it, you've always, hey man, like you said, I got that. I got an appointment. How does Wednesday morning, or if evenings only work, hey, Thursday evening is open. How does that look? So yeah, that's the thing that people fight the calendar. And I think the thing too, though, Jimmy, getting into real estate, I always ask people, what job did you work at? Right. Majority of people have had some type of job, right? Where they come in and they've had structure. They've got to be there at a certain time. They got to do certain things. I'm like, carry that over into real estate, right? A lot of people have this fantasy of getting into real estate that I can set my own hours and, I don't have to work as much and I can make they have this false belief.
I got into it for my freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so I think what they have to realize is that like you said, the more structured the calendar will set you free. It's an incredible productivity tool. And I know, as you do, if it does not make the calendar, it does not happen. We have the best of intent. Our intent is on point. But if we're not utilizing the calendar, and for me, I am detailed. I am specific. I have as much information in there as possible, like this call, like all of your information, the headline, the talking points, everything's in the calendar. It's in the calendar invite. The link to get on this call is in there. Things in my calendar are color coded. I know, like you said, the non-negotiables, those are in red. Guess what? Whoever has access to my calendar and they want to try to schedule something, if it's in red, guess where I'm going to be? I'm going to be what's in red, like you said, like
red, yeah.
Date night, right? Non-negotiable. It's in red. Like, I don't know what y'all thinking. That's where I'm going to be. And so I think that's so important. The faster that you can embrace the calendar and get everything in there, you will see your productivity, your focus drastically go through the roof. And I think what real estate agents need to understand, and salespeople are the same way, coaches are the same way, most coaches are the same way. We are more, you can either be project or process, some hybrid, but we have we lean one way or the other a lot stronger. So a project-based person, which is salespeople, coach, like we love like the variety. We love everything is different. Every real estate transaction is different, right? We're dealing with different situations, different goals, different. It's just different. We love that, right? And we love bringing it to closure. And then the other side is a process person, right? Hey, I need a starting, I need a middle, I need an end, I need to know kind of going through there. The downside of the process people is they're afraid to fail, right? Like, man, if I don't, I'm going to fail here. Well, the downside for us project people is that we tend to overcommit and we lose focus. The beautiful thing with the calendar will allow us to focus.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you tell your agents, I would always be like, show me your calendar. I know what your revenue situation is going to be in 60, 90 days. Let me see your calendar. I know, right? Your calendar tells the story.
100%. And we live in a 30, 60, 90 day business, right? And so if you tell me what you're doing today, I'll tell you what you're doing in 30, 60, 90 days from now.
Yeah.
Right. If you're telling me you're out golfing today, cool. I don't know if you'll be able to afford golf 30, 60, 90 days from now.
Right.
Right. Now that doesn't mean
every day.
that doesn't mean you can't go golf, right? That means if you're on the golf course every day though, and you're hoping that, I'm going to strum up business, like the caddy's going to buy a house, maybe, I don't know. But so I can tell you what you're going to do based on what your calendar is. Right.
Yeah.
And again, putting everything in there that's important to you. Like you said, like if I want to, if it's date night, right? I want to put date night in there because that's important to me. Those are the things that are non-negotiable for me. And you can have more freedom with real estate than you can. But the funny thing is, and you hit this too, if you worked real estate like a 9 to 5, you would make more money than 90% of real estate agents out there.
Facts.
You just worked at 9 to 5.
Facts.
That's it.
Facts.
That's it. And it's amazing how we get into it and say, well, I got into this for my freedom. which there is truth to that, because, I can, if I decide to drive my son to school in the morning, I can do that. I can just back up my morning a little bit. I can adjust my morning and I can drive him to school.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. I have the ability to do that. Now, when I was in the corporate world, I didn't have that ability. I had to be in the office at 8:30. I had to be there till this time. There was no flexibility with it. And I think with the beauty of real estate and what we do as entrepreneurs is we have some flexibility with it, but then no one tells us that we actually own a business.
Yeah.
No one says when you go get a real estate, and I think this is one of the biggest things we do in our industry, is we don't explain that to agents that get into the industry early. We don't tell them like, hey, you're going to go get a real estate license, you're going to pass your test, and they're going to hand you a business. This isn't just a job, right? They're giving you your own business. You're a 1099. You can walk in any door you want, and they'll bring you in, right? There's a million brokerages out there, they'll bring you in. But what does that mean? Like, what does that look like to you? And like you said, people get into this because they're like, oh, I'm going to get into real estate because it looks like so much fun on HGTV, and then I'm going to flip houses, and then I'm going to do this thing, and then I'm going to do that thing, and all this stuff starts to happen, and then nothing is happening. And I call this when agents don't follow their plan, and agents don't follow their calendar. I tell them, I'm like, you're in business quicksand. And you're sinking faster and the more you're flailing around, the faster you start to sink. So now you have to streamline everything. Yeah. What are your money-making activities, and do those first.
Yeah.
Then let the other things happen throughout the day. And again, you're going to have to put fires out here or there. You're going to have an upset client or a deal that's rocky that you're going to have to step in on and do some different things. But if you just stay diligent with your calendar, you'll figure out how much more smooth everything can get. And it's funny. So we just had our team meeting yesterday, and the agents on my team said, hey, can we do another 90-day business plan? We're getting ready for the fourth quarter, and they all want to sit down and do a 90-day business plan with me. And which I was going to put it on the calendar anyway, but they asked for it. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, hey, the fourth quarter's here. If all the signs that are pointing correctly, if we do get this rate drop in September that they're talking about, if that happens, this market's going to be, they all want to stay on top of it. So now it's like, now we're just becoming this force together where they're like, hey, I want more, because they know it works. Right. And then again, the FOMO, right? You create that FOMO of like, when agents aren't doing it, they're like, hey, what are those guys doing over there? And why are they having success and I'm not? What is happening over there? And that's when it really starts to be in the sweet spot of everything.
It is. And that's kind of the cadence, right? We have these goals, a little bit longer out, it's kind of becomes part of the vision, right? The mission we're on, what's that, big, hairy, audacious goal we're in pursuit of, which should be freedom, right? Freedom of time and being able to spend and do what you want and living closer to that perfect day. And I think, the quicker that real estate agents can realize that, they're all the head of their own business, right? That's the whole agent to CEO concept. And it's to your point, right? Most people, start out in some type of employee fashion, and then, they make the jump into real estate and they become self-employed. And the faster that they can move from self-employed to business owner mindset, that the better off they're going to be, and they can withstand the season. They can build a lifestyle business. That's nothing wrong with that. But you understand that you're going to ride the seasonal roller coaster. And when things get tight, if you've built this lifestyle, that's where a lot of agents get in trouble. And so the quicker you can get into that business mentality, and you can be an agent on a team, right? You can be an agent on your team. You can be an agent on Mark Z's team, but you're still the CEO of your own business, and you need to treat it and run it like that. And that's where the allocation of that time goes into the calendar on the activities that, are going to move my business forward. And I love what you said, because it's so true, right? Especially in this business. A lot of agents wake up reactive to the day versus, and it's what Jim Rohn, right? You either run the day or the day runs you. And most people, the day runs them, and because they're not sticking to an agenda, they're not sticking to their calendar. And I know so many people that fought it. And when they finally just like gave in and like trusted the process and trusted the calendar, their life became exponentially better almost overnight.
Yeah. And everybody says too, like, wow, that happened really fast for you. It's like, well, it really didn't, but but
No.
it feels like it, right? But you're right, and it's sticking to that calendar, sticking to the thing, but again, knowing what you want to accomplish with this
Yes.
business, right? Like,
Yeah.
everybody says, though, I want to be a millionaire, right? Well, do you know what millionaires do every day? Like, it's a lot. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that goes into that, and that's where like, if you're happy, and you're successful in your mind and you're living your best version of your life, and you're making, $80,000 to $100,000 a year, and you're just crushing it, and you love life, and your kids are happy, and the spouse is happy, and whoever it is happy, and you're happy, and you're just enjoying it, just live there.
Yeah.
Stop trying to fight it to be something else. I saw a thing with Gary Vee, and he said the same thing. He's like, everybody says, well, they want this, but social media has a big platform to do this with too, right? Like, we see the cars, and we see all the things, and sometimes the people don't even own the things that they're showing off, right? Like, yeah. But where is my success? Like, what is success to me? And you said that earlier. Like, what is success to me? What does that mean to me? And is it, to me, it's like, I'm happy, my wife's happy, the kids are good, my life's good, and yeah, like, I just want things to be like smooth sailing, smooth and easy for me, right? Like, now there's a lot of things that we do in our position that we probably don't have to do, right? Like, there's stuff that we do that we probably don't have to do, but the more I give, the more I receive, right? Yeah. The more I can give away. And if you need me to come talk to somebody about doing a 90-day plan, or if you need me to come talk to somebody about scheduling, or if you need me to, I'm here to do that, right? Like, I'm here to give that away. Kurt and I do a 7:30 phone call every morning, Monday through Friday, that we have agents in from New Jersey to California, from Florida to Detroit to South Carolina, North Carolina, all over the country, that jump on this call with us every morning at 7:30. Now, Kurt and I don't have to do this call every morning, right? But we're providing value. We think we're providing value. I don't know. Somebody may think something else.
Two of you, I can guarantee you are.
But I mean, we have agents that are on there every morning in California. What's 4:30 in the morning out there? Uh-huh. And they are on every morning. And now we've gotten a few more. There's a few more from California. And I'm like, man, I don't think anything I say is important enough to get up at 4:30 in the morning. But here we are. But we don't like, but it's to pour value into people. It's to help people. We just have that mindset of like, how I would need to do this. And that's like the coaching background and the thing. But it's just, if we can all get better, aren't we all better? If we can just all get better, we're all better. If it's an agent that's in a different brokerage and I sit down and do a 90-day business plan with them, is it help them? Yes. Right. At the end of the day, if I eventually sit across from them during a deal, is that deal going to go smoother? Probably. Right. Like, that's probably going to help me out in the long run, because now that deal's going to go a little smoother. Right. I can help them out. And at the end of the day, there's enough for us all out here. But I just feel like our community and the group that we are associated with is just incredible, man. I just feel so blessed every day to get up and be able to do that call in the morning with Kurt. You know what I mean? Like, I feel excited to get up and do that call in the morning.
Yeah, it's the whole right environment. Drives environment and circumstance drives everything. And the quickest way to change your results is change the people you're around every day, and really who you choose to associate with, who you allow into your space, into your energy, into your time, right? You've got to be super disciplined to that. And you've got to have, some criteria and some standards and some alignment, or it's going to lead you down a path, and you'll find yourself in a season that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to understand, is that we have more control over that. And coming back to, the first half of this conversation theme around, it's all about the who, man. It's who you choose to associate with. Who are you modeling success after? Who are you, like you said, spending time with, that, being able to navigate through, the seasons and navigate through everything that we get to deal with on a day in and day out basis.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, are the people that you're surrounding yourself with, are they taking you closer to, farther away from the goals and dreams that you have.
Yeah.
Right. And when you start to kind of just analyze it that way of like, is this person helping me get closer to the goals and dreams that I want, or are they taking me farther away from? And am I helping them get closer to their goals and dreams that they want, or am I holding them back? Right. And again, you talked about dragging people, or, I'm a bigger, like, I want leadership should be pushing, right? Like we should be pushing people to the front, right? We push people to the front, leaders eat last, right? Like that's my whole theme, right? Is how can I be a servant leader, push people out front, get people to have more fun and enjoyment in this industry and make money, right? Like at the end of the day, we all do this to make money. We have bills to pay. We have things that we want to do. We have goals and dreams that we want to accomplish. So, but how at that same time, how can I push people to be, the best versions of themselves? And that's my goal on a daily basis.
I love it. Jimmy, definitely knew today was going to be exactly what this whole, expert mentor series has been all about, right? Just bringing, caliber of human beings like yourself into the conversation and just giving and pouring back in. And man, appreciate you carving out the time, jumping in with us. Thank Kurt for making the push, making it happen. And
that's right.
I know we'll definitely do it again in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll reciprocate. You got to get on the Elite Real Estate.
Man, let me know. I'll be there anytime.
We'll get you back out there. But man, I appreciate the time for sure. Again, it's easy when it's people like you that we get to talk to and have these conversations with. Man, you make it easy and enjoyable. So that's one of the blessings that we have.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Thanks, Jimmy. Bye.